CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. Derek Thord here with
Jarza Arlong. It's great to be here. Great to be back. It's going to be a good episode.
I think so. Just the two of us tonight. We're going to just rock it out with the two of us, but it should be a good time.
Two guys, one cast.
Sure.
All right. Sounds good then. How you been, man? What's been up?
Just been working and playing hockey. My sister just flew in today, so I'll see her tomorrow. Taking my kid to a concert Sunday.
Nice. You want to tell everyone about our guest appearance?
Oh shit! I forgot to tell you. We got to reschedule that. It's not Saturday. Didn't work for him. I was going to tell you that when we recorded. I forgot to do that before you pressed record. So,
nice to know how you feel about me.
Just a bunch of things on the mind. So yeah, you don't have to worry about getting up early this Saturday.
Okay, well that makes me feel a little bit better. Now I can sleep in a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, at some point we're trying to work out something with under the radar science fiction fantasy book with Blaze is the fellow who does that podcast. So we'll see when that happens. Sometime down the road here.
nice.
How you been?
I've been okay. Been very, very busy. So I hope everyone's enjoying Bare Bones with Derek. That was a lot of fun to create and make.
Thank you for doing that.
I don't know. You said in the episode, I'm not going to make Justin do this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway.
Fair enough. I do appreciate it a lot.
I know. I just like to sink my teeth into like creative outlets, even though it was AI generated. Shame.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't use AI to write a book, so.
But I mean, it's not any different than instead of just finding a skeleton and putting it in a library, I made AI do it. Then that way I had a better base to Derek the skeleton up.
Well, so the next one that will come out, whenever we do that, will be A Cup of Tea at the Mouth of Hell by Luke Tarzian, and then after that, it will be Lightfall, which I'm currently reading. I need to try and finish that by April 1st. I don't know that I'll necessarily have an episode recorded by then, but that is the goal, to have it done by April 1st. And then sometime shortly after that, Jim and then Matt and I will talk about it at some point on Jim's channel on Fantasy for the Ages. So
nice.
I don't know if we'll try to talk to the author or not. I guess we'll see how those guys feel, but that may or may not happen.
We'll see what happens. That's fair enough. All right. Well, on to our patrons here. Order of subscription. We've got Jan the Picker, Luciana Etrigan, Ryan the Topological, Damien Face in the Rock. We fixed that. Nate Fiddle Me This. Shield Anvil Dylan, Calvin, He Who Witnessed, Livia the Malazan Potato, Aaron, Mati Regular, Scott the Only, Graceless Passion, Dead Smell, Gestriant, and our newest edition, My Own Genesis. So thank you very much for your patronage, y'all. We deeply appreciate it.
Yeah, and welcome, My Own Genesis. Me and Justin were talking. I had the idea, and this is totally just in fun. It's nothing serious, but maybe your nickname will be the Nitpicker, as you kind of coined that yourself. So
let us know if that is not what you would like.
Yeah, we could totally change it up.
Yeah,
but just right off, immediately, that's kind of what I thought of. So
fair enough. All right.
farmed out the epigraph work to Jim, so he sent us a bunch of those. Insert here.
House of Chains, Chapter 10, Epigraph. All that breaks must be discarded, even as the thunder of faith returns ever-fading echoes. Prelude to Animandrous, Fisher.
House of Chains, Chapter 10.
Double digits.
I know. Getting there. We only have 15 more chapters left. Doesn't seem like a lot, but that's still half a book.
Yeah, what are we on page here? We got to get to like page 1,000 and something.
1,000.
On page 500. Yeah, we are like damn near halfway.
Yeah. The day the seven were awakened was celebrated among the Teblor by a song. The memories of his people were twisted. When it was bad, it was bad. When it was good, it was good. Defeat had been woven into every tale of victory. He wished Bayroth was here to give Karza some good judgment on what he needed to know. Karza had spent so much time in the glade of the Seven on his home continent that he was able to capture their likeness somewhat. Karza felt there was something missing now, and thought that it was merely his lack of artistic ability. Bayroth and Delum's features were captured well enough that kind of debunked that thought. The energy of their lives seemed to emulate from their statues, as if merged with the wood's own memory. There was a sense that the trees were waiting for a coming spring, a rebirth. But Raraku allowed no seasons, stuck in a never-ending cycle of waiting for rebirth. As he slowly paced around the statues, he thought that it was possible that the holy desert could be the perfect place for the gods of the Teblor. There was something dark about that thought that had made his sculptures appear as if they had flaws, though he could see none. He scowled, pausing in front of Urugol. Serpents slithered over his dusty feet. The snakes were his only company in the glade. He suddenly spoke out loud, asking Bayroth to look at his carving of Urugol and tell him where he had screwed up. He talks to Bayroth, assuming the dead warrior would ask what Karza would achieve with these sculptures. Inside his head, Karza tells himself that he had no answers. He asks Bayroth if perhaps the dead warrior wished to be in the company of his gods once more. Karza's thoughts go to that of the Teblor shamans and how the seven appeared to them, awakened once more. Karza now knows the flavor of those dreams, and it was nothing like the songs, nothing at all. He had found this glade for solitude, and it had been solitude that inspired his creations. Now that he was done, he no longer felt alone. He had brought his own life and his deeds to this place. It had ceased to be a refuge, and the lure of what he was doing kept him coming back. Raraku delivered the illusion that time stood motionless, the universe holding its breath. Beyond the whirlwind, time still paced on, and there were armies assembling, beginning their march. And on top of that, on a distant continent, his people were still under siege. Karza stared at the carving of Urugol. Inside his mind, he says that Urugol wasn't a god of the Teblor. What about the time before they had awakened on that cliff? A chuckle from across the clearing brought Karza back too. Leomin edged forward through the snakes and stated that he was in the need of company. He gestures to the Tobakai's carvings and asks what these were all about. He notes that the two other Tobakai appear as if they are alive. But what about the others? Karza replied that they were his gods. He admits to Leomin, like Haborik had said, he is haunted by his dreams, and his gods call upon him still. Leomin asked what they wanted. Karza shrugged and asked Leomin what he needed. Leomin was going to say one thing, but decided to inform Karza about the distant defeats of the Malazans. His patience is at an end. Sha'ik and her followers simply wait and do nothing, and wait for the adjunct in her army. He explains, like Dom had tried to explain, but instead of meeting the adjunct in full-scale battles, Sha'ik has permitted him and a select few warriors to go beyond the whirlwind and scout out the adjunct and her armies marching. Leomin said that once he was beyond the whirlwind, he will incur her displeasure. He asks what of Karza. She called him her bodyguard, but never permits the Templar warrior into her presence. Karza said that she was Malazan. Leomin said yes, but she was reborn and became the will of the goddess. Karza said that this was what was told, but she has her, fellows and elders' memories, and those memories are chains. Fear traps her, a fear that is a secret, and it is only her and Hoboric that know. Leomin stared at the warrior for a moment and then crouched down and allowed one of the snakes to crawl up his arm. He told Karza that what was said sounded like words of defeat. Karza shrugged and strode towards his tools. He stated that Sha'ik Elder and even Leomin had served him well in his time with the Whirlwind. He explains that he had once vowed to kill the Malazans, but in his time he saw that they were no crueler than any other lowlander. Yet the people of Seven Cities hate the Malazans and want nothing more than the power that the Malazans took from them. Power they used on their own people. He says that Leomin and his people war against justice, and that was not his war. Leomin bared his teeth and said that he would not challenge Karza's word, and Sha'ik Reborn did say that she saw no loyalty in him. He reveals that he stayed and asked Karza if he had ever wondered why. Karza notices the light on Bayroth and Delum's statues and how their shadows deepen, and it's because of the light that makes them so different than the rest. Meanwhile, Leomin goes on a tirade about the destruction of people, and the sooner they killed themselves off, the better they would all be. Karza wasn't listening though. Karza stated that the light almost made them look human. Karza did not see Leomin's eyes narrow, nor the struggle to keep from blowing up further. One did not step between a man and his gods. The snake head lifted in front of Leomin's face and hovered there.
The nice snake-like movements.
I'm a snake. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that every section that I had was Karza's.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. I don't know how much I will have to offer anything other sections. I don't know. I feel like I got some good character development from Karza in this chapter. Like for sure. Some turning points, you could say.
All right. Well, what do you got?
The first thing that I had is the memories of his people were twisted, right? And that defeat had been woven into every tale of victory. So do you remember all of those stories that we got in chapter 2 and 3 and even 1? Well, mainly chapter 1 and 2 about all of the Templar wars with other, I don't even remember what they were called. Spirit Wars or something like that. I don't even remember now. I think it is, the Spirit Wars. Defeat had been woven into every tale of victory. So basically, it kind of makes it seem like, again, the Templar have been like lied to and defrauded, over and over and over again. And that these tales, even though they are tales of victories, are actually defeats. So I just get the sense that like 100% of all of the Templar stories are designed. They were created, fabricated.
Probably.
That's just kind of my first thought there.
Sure.
But you seem to think the same, so we can move on. And then, of course, Bayroth and Delum having this there's several points throughout the section where it's stated that they almost looked alive, right? One, it's kind of foreshadowing from what we know throughout this chapter. And two, it kind of goes back to idolizing, right? Like we saw with the prayer for the chain of dogs, and then, even the statues of the hounds of darkness, going back to Onrak and Troll's conversation about idolizing things, right? And that idol having a home, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely on a much smaller scale, but concept to me at least was the same.
I feel like there was a lot of language here, and maybe it was a little bit later on in the section, but I think you even kind of summarized it in such a way, but like the peeling of shadows from light and dark.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of
Maybe
crazy,
the
huh?
the hounds of darkness.
Yeah. Well, and even in a way, it kind of represents a little bit of Kars's attitude, shedding light on the situation, like literally, as Bayroth and Delim so, humbly did, right, in chapters 1 and 2. Like, they were just trying to make Karza see that, like, not all as it seemed, and like now he wants that back. And
Right.
and in a physical realm, we got the light kind of making things feel a little bit more animated than they are, and two, kind of like this metaphorical of how Karza, how his character kind of turns a little bit later. All right.
Thumbs up. 2 thumbs up.
Yay, I don't always suck. All right.
Definitely do not.
So this one is maybe like a semantic thing, but it said they're live. The energy seemed to emulate from their statues as if merged with the wood's own memory. And I get a little bit of conflicting information here because are they trees or are they stones? Because a little bit ago it said stone trees. So like, I don't like, is it stone that is shaped like a tree? Or is it what woods? Or I mean, it honestly doesn't matter. This is not a huge thing to get hung up on, but in my mind, I thought it was, or is it like petrified wood?
I don't know. I guess I kind of thought it was stone, but I mean, I didn't reread the chapter again after summarizing it, so I guess I don't. My memory's not super sharp right now on that specific.
Do you read my sections when you summarize?
Yeah, I'll read them.
Okay. I do too.
I used to not, but then I figured, well, I'll just kind of make it a reread then.
I mean, yeah, I do the same thing.
Read it again, then I got at least a second time.
Yeah. And then, obviously stuck in a never-ending cycle of waiting for rebirth. As Damien pointed out in the last episode, cycle seems to spill over from the last chapter a little bit. But I kind of wonder if like rebirth kind of seems like it's a prominent theme in this chapter because it seems pretty significant. So
I'm trying to remember. We'll see. I mean, maybe things will come to me as we go.
yeah, got to add that Damien touch. You know what I mean?
He's good.
All right. Next thought here. Karza thought that it was possible that the holy desert could be the perfect place for the gods of the Teblor, and that there was something dark about that thought made his sculptures seem like they had flaws. And I think this is foreshadowing to potentially the thought that the seven have already been here. And I know there's a little bit more information that I bring up a little bit later, so I'm just gonna kind of leave it here a little bit. And the whole flaw thing just kind of ties in the crippled god a little bit, which I feel like isn't a surprise at this point. I think that at least I have had theories that the seven and the crippled are working together. Would you say that too?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Stop making your fish lip face, dude.
Okay. All right.
I'm not sure that I'm convinced that maybe they're in league with each other, but I don't know if they're working together. I don't know.
I mean, working together is not the right way to coin it. Crippled God is definitely using the seven, whatever it is that he's using them for.
Maybe. I don't know.
What makes you think otherwise? What makes you think that?
What do they? You think like they're just using the crippled god as like a means to escape or something?
No, I think they're using the Teblor and Karza as a means of escape. But I think that it has something to do with the crippled god. It aligns with, I think it's just the first step, and that is, as we'll see later, their freedom, right? So they can't really do anything, as they said in the beginning of the book, near the beginning of the book, like they're kind of stuck until they can gain their freedom. So I think that this is just the beginning stages of that. It didn't help that Karza took a 3-year hiatus in the desert. It kind of seems like the seven are very patient because, again, they've been, what's eternity when you've already spent eternity? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I'm not against it, but I don't know that I'm fully on board either. I'm just kind of waffling in the middle.
Is it just the crippled god part, or do you feel that way about the potential of the seven gods or the seven faces in the rock, their origins stemming from seven cities?
I don't think that I mean, they might have come from the continent, I suppose, but I don't think that like there was one from each of the 7 cities or anything.
Okay. That's what I meant, just the continent. Okay. All right. Fair enough. We'll move on. We'll see what you think. This one I absolutely loved. So it is said that Karza, or to Karza, Raraku delivered the illusion that time stood motionless, and then the universe was holding its breath. And this is interesting to me for 2 reasons. Illusion makes me think of Minas, right? Which is associated with the Warren of Shadow. He does say Raraku, though, which isn't. We are kind of on board that the whirlwind is more aligned with Shadow than Raraku. But he says, or in the book, it says it was an insidious conceit, which not entirely sure what those 2 words string together really mean. It makes me think that even though he says Raraku, he's actually meaning the whirlwind. An elaborate way of me saying that the illusion that he makes is a fashioning of Minas, of the Warren Minas, that like there is no whirlwind. It's just an illusion.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know what I mean?
Do you think you can feel physical effects from an illusion?
I would imagine if it was strong enough, right? Like strong enough to close a portal.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. That
Just,
might be an illusion, but that's definitely an interesting thought.
and again, could be right, could be wrong. I don't really care. But secondly, the part about the universe holding its breath, it makes me think back to the Omen chapter, right? When the child first makes his appearance. So does that mean that Raraku delivering this illusion that time stood still is a bad omen? That's kind of what I'm getting this, right? Like, so Raraku is giving the illusion that time is motionless, right? Like everybody's like in some type of suspended animation. And then being that the universe is holding its breath, is that the omen? Is that an omen? But for who? Like the child is Raraku delivering the illusion, and the universe is reacting to that omen.
I have no idea, man.
Sorry. Okay. I just thought it was a very unique like recollection to the previous chapter, which was all about omens, right? Like that was kind of like the main thing. And so if the whirlwind is just a conjuring of, Minas, it's just an illusion.
This would be a good conversation to have if we were high.
Yes. Maybe we should do that one episode.
Oh God, it would be like 10 hours long and we wouldn't even know it.
We could just live stream it.
That'd be something.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, those were just thoughts that I had when I read it or when I was summarizing it. I'm like, this makes me think of the previous chapter. So, and then of course, Karza's like, even on my distant continent, his people are still under siege. He just hits me deep, and I don't really know why. I'm really starting to like him more and more as a character. Like he still hasn't forgotten about his kin.
I'm interested to see where his story progresses to, because I'm not even sure where.
Arza kind of seems like the nice guy finishes last type of character arc. You know what I mean? Like truly maybe a little ignorant, maybe a little stupid at the beginning of the book, obviously, has maybe awakened to some abuses, right? Therefore, the nice guy finishing last, but still doesn't want to give up that side of him. a
Even
very
though,
violent, nice guy. But
that sounds weird for the amount of violence he can inflict.
but I think that I think that he's just going to keep getting used over and over and over again.
I can see him being. I don't
If-
think he'd like that.
Yeah.
Especially if he finds out he's being used. I don't think he's going to like that.
No, I mean, I don't think it's going to be by the same person or entity or God or spirit or whatever. I think it's just going to kind of be like somebody uses him, he figures it out, he gets pissed and slices their heads off, right? And then someone else will come along and, like that just kind of cycle repeats, right? So, initial thoughts. Again, I know that like this chapter has led me to left field, I think, but I like it here. And then, of course, when we get to Leoman talking about him scouting outside of the whirlwind, he kind of announces that he will incur Sha'ik's displeasure. And so this is kind of where I put it together that they're going to abandon her. They're going to abandon Sha'ik here. And we kind of got the feeling that Karza was a little bit, but I didn't really get that Leoman was until I was summarizing here. So like first read through, I did not catch this. So
I felt like he was just going to go out like an attack, not necessarily defect or anything, but that he just wanted to fight. So he's going to go out and fight and then like come back.
do you see Leoman as a fighter though?
I don't really know what I see him as. I don't know why I think he's capable.
He seems more vindictive to me.
Maybe.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So I think it's something we'll just have to keep tabs on. You want to make a beard bet?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. I mean, he could always lead from the rear, like command whatever, the small amount of troops he has with or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I guess
But,
we'll find out.
You could be right too.
And then there's this thought where Karza said he's talking about fellows and elders' memories, and those memories are chains, right? That's one of those things where it's kind of another comparison between himself and Sha'ik Reborn, like we got in chapter 7. There's a couple of instances where Karza in his mind compares himself to Felazin. And that's kind of where I'm like desperately trying to like think to the back of my brain, like what could that possibly mean? How exactly are their stories the same? There's definitely some similarities in there. I guess they're just not hitting the same for me, but it's happened more than once now. So it's got to have some type of meaning.
How Felison / Sha'ik and Karsa are similar?
Yeah.
It's funny. I was thinking about that today, and I had some thoughts, and I should have like jotted it down somewhere or something, and I didn't, and I can't really think of it now.
God damn. Well, I mean, if you think of them, just I guess as always, send me a little instant messenger.
That's funny. I wish I would have, jotted it down or said something. I've probably figured. I assume. I always think I'm going to remember these things, and then I never.
I do the same thing though too.
Poor planning on my part.
I think this is why I like to read or reread them like a night or an afternoon before we record, just so that like it's a little fresh. But it's all good if you think about it. Before this episode is live, I can easily record it and throw it in. It's whatever.
Sure. Yeah,
easy peasy. And then also just this part where, Karza's like, you know what? Like the Malazans actually ain't that much worse than any other lowlander out there. And you know what? You guys just hate, the Malazans took your power, which is understandable. I mean, that's not what I'm trying to say is like your fault or anything. But you're just upset that you can't use the power on your own people. And that really it's just a war on justice. So like I'm out. And this gets fucking Leoman pissed. So I don't really know what to make of that. I think that kind of maybe reveals, like when you really think about it, Like, why would that upset Leoman so much?
Maybe he just doesn't want like his side talked badly about.
Well, I kind of get the sense from him, from his tirade, that he wants both sides to lose. He wants everybody dead. He wants this whole thing to be over.
Do you think that has anything to do with the end of the chapter?
Could be. We talk about it when we get there.
It just popped into my head now.
Nice. I like it when I can do that sometimes. I guess my last thought about this section is just the snake. The snake crawling up his arm. And then in section 3, it crawls down his arm. But it kind of like hovers in front of his face and like flicks its tongue. And it seems like these snakes were spying on Karza this whole time. And I know that, like, Leoman is supposedly is unloyal, but, based on his tirade, like we were talking about, it seems like he wants both sides to kill themselves. So, like, I don't know. I don't trust Leoman, and I feel like I even had the sense in Deadhouse Gates, like I didn't really like him as a character. Not that like he's a bad character or like he's written poorly or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just like it was just something. There's always something has been off about him to me, and the fact that like he just wants to indiscriminately kill, doesn't matter who or what side, is like, well, that would explain why there's no loyalty.
Well, he even said himself that he didn't have loyalty within him.
So why is he still there? I mean, Karza never answered that question because he was too busy looking at the light making Delim and Bayroth look alive. Leoman was like, haven't you wondered why I'm here?
I'm sure he's got some sort of plan, but yeah, I don't really know. Like you said, I don't know how you play both sides.
I don't know if he's playing both sides. I think that he's got his own motivations. I almost kind of wonder, because we don't know anything about Leoman's history, right? We know he's a Seven Cities native. I almost kind of wonder if he has anything to do with the Seven. If my theory is correct about the Seven had committed some type of ancient crime on Seven Cities or in Seven Cities or the Holy Desert or wherever, if Leoman is maybe witness to the beginnings of that, or
That old?
yeah, I mean, we don't know anything about his age, right?
Not that I can recall.
I mean, yeah, and he keeps getting associated with snakes. So snakes don't make me think that like you're being honest. You know what I mean? You're being deceptive. Like he hung out in a pit viper, right? Like that was kind of some of those things that Damien like called out that could have applied to those chapters. So I don't know. These are just all like, fanatical thoughts that don't have any rhyme or reason or make no sense, but they definitely make me think. I think that there's definitely something snaky about Leoman. And the only thing that I can conjure up is that he has something to do with the Seven.
You very well could be right.
Or he's the one creating the illusion of the whirlwind or something like that.
But then he couldn't leave it, you wouldn't think.
He should be able to leave, right? Like,
Well, then don't you think that illusion would evaporate or disappear or whatever?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Depends on how strong the illusion is, right?
True. But I just feel like that would be hard to maintain if you're not near it. But maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know anything about Leoman, so that's the tricky part about this equation, is that we literally don't know that much about him. I definitely think that the whole loyalty thing is there, but then it's weird. Like, why didn't Sha'ik Elder say anything about it? You know what I mean? Like, he almost seems that he is more loyal to Sha'ik Elder than he is anything now. But I could be wrong in that too.
Read and find out.
Yeah, read and find out. But outside of that, I'm done rambling. So
Maybe I'll bring it up now. I don't. Did we talk about Osric in this chapter, or was it a previous chapter?
It was a previous chapter.
Was it the last one? Was it with Damien, or was it before that?
Osric was yes, with the Tisleonas, Leosons.
So this I want to tell you my theory on this. So for this, again, this is more like for fun than anything. I'm not buying into this, but it assumes I have to make two big assumptions for this to work.
Okay.
This is a character that we've met. Gender doesn't matter. So I don't remember, like, I asked you at one point if you thought Osric was a soul taken, right?
Yep. I remember that.
You're like, well, how do you know he's soul taken? I guess I don't, but he's Animander's brother, right?
No.
Pretty sure.
Stepbrother, maybe? I don't know. I don't remember now.
Okay,
Sure.
well, you look at Animander. His name is like Salamander, which is like a lizard, which is a dragon. So it makes sense, right?
Okay.
Do you have any idea where I'm going with this with Osric?
I know where you're going. I don't know what you're going to.
Where do you think I'm going?
You're going to make some type of animal.
Osric makes me think of like osprey or a bird. Crone.
You think Osric is crone?
Who the fuck knows? I don't know. Half-heartedly, it's just a fun thing I thought of. Like, oh. But they said he's
a bitch, though.
They said he's lost, right?
Is crone lost, though?
Well, I don't know about Crone, but it's old. Crone's old as shit, right? Animander's old as shit.
I would imagine that Osric is older than crone.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics. Like I said,
Yeah, no, that is
a couple
interesting.
big assumptions there,
For
but
fun, yeah. I would like shave my face for a whole year if that was the case.
that would be amazing.
You don't want to see this. All right. Well,
That was it.
interesting.
I'm just like Charlie Day with my map and my strings going to everything.
I have thought about when I reread it, I'm just going to take notes about every single character and just like start their like story arc. You know what I mean? And just see how it all ties in.
That would be a lot.
It would be a lot, but we'll see if I can get into any other books when I'm done with this.
I'm hoping I can get you into something, it's one of these other books that I read or something.
Yeah, I'll get there. I think I need robotics to kind of dwindle down a little bit because it just takes up so much of my time.
It's got to cool its jets.
But yeah, outside of that, I'm ready to move on.
I'll let you eat, and I've got a pretty long section here. Heberic said, "The House of Chains," and Bidithal shivered, though it was unknown if it was from pleasure or fear. Bidithal spoke. "Reaver, consort, the unbound. These are interesting, yes? For all the world would like shattered." Heberic cut him off, asking where these images came from as he looked at the wooden cards. Heberic thought to himself that he sensed flaws in each and every one of them, and he didn't think that was an accident. Lork said there was no doubt sorcery was involved, and he had never witnessed such a vigorous birth from within the deck, not even Shadow. Bidithal didn't like hearing about Shadow and said those deceivers could never unravel the realm's true power. He continued saying the theme within this new house was pure. Imperfections are celebrated. Sha'ik told everyone to shut up. She needed to think and didn't want anyone to talk. She sat next to Heberic. The cards in the new house of the deck had arrived the same day as the word of the Malazan defeat on Genebacchus. Since then, Sha'ik's commanders had not been happy. Enough so that it negated her happiness of hearing her brother was still alive. The House of Chains was a part of their fate now, but was it an enemy or a new source for strength? It appeared Bidithal saw strength in it, and he thought he might have leaned that was as he was growing irritated with Sha'ik. I don't know what the fuck I meant there. Lorik seemed to be suspicious like Heberick, and Febril had kept quiet on the matter so far.
I think you're trying to say he was leaning that way. He was leaning towards the power.
I will go with that. I just worded it really stupidly. So thank you for saving me. Life jacket. Heberick wanted to leave the tent. Sha'ik spoke, saying she wanted to see the new unaligned card again. Bidethal, while not happy, dug the card out and said if any of the new arrivals is dubious, it is this one. Master of the deck? Absurd. How can one control the uncontrollable? Silence followed. Heberick thought that Sha'ik had not understood Bidethal's meaning. She asked Heberick to handle the card, sense what he could from it. Heberick spoke, saying she keeps asking him to do this, and he keeps telling her there is no link between his power, or between the power in his hands and the deck. It's a useless thing to do. She said just to listen then. She was asking since he was once a priest and scholar. She would describe it for him. The face is obscured, but hints. Bidethal interrupted and said it was obscured because it was only a projection of someone's wishful thinking. Sha'ik reasserted her dominance and said if Bidethal interrupted her again, she would remove his tongue from his mouth. Sha'ik continued, saying the figure is a little more than average in height. There is blood or a scar down the side of his face, maybe a wound. She is certain it is a man, standing on a bridge of stone that is ran through with cracks, and the horizon surrounding them is in flames, and it appears he and the bridge are surrounded by servants or followers. Lorik said maybe guardians and apologized for interrupting on the conversation. Sha'ik agreed and said they do have the look of soldiers. Heberick asked if she could see what the soldiers stood on. She said bones, and there was a lot of detail there. Heberick wanted her to describe the bones. She said they were large and not human. One skull looks long-snouted and fanged, and has remnants of some sort of helmet. Heberick keeps silent, and Sha'ik continued, saying the master stood awkwardly, arms out and bent at the elbows, so the hands depend away from the body. It is a strange posture. Heberick asked if his feet were together. She said yes. Heberick thought as if they formed a point. He continued, asking what he wore. Sha'ik said tight silks that appeared to be black, and a chain cut across him from his left shoulder to right hip, black iron with wooden discs on his shoulders. 4 of them. Sha'ik sensed he now knew something and wanted to know what it was. Lorik agreed while Bidethal said it was all lies. He had been forgotten by his god and was now trying to invent a new way to be relevant. Febril called Bidethal an idiot and said Heberick touches what they cannot feel and sees what they cannot. He asked Heberick to continue. Heberick said he stood the way he does because he is a sword. Thinking to himself, he thought, not just any sword, but one sword above all, and it cuts cold. He would cleave his own path. None would lead him. He could see his face, and he felt for Sha'ik. Lorik said the master of the deck was a lodestone to order in opposition to the House of Chains, yet he stands alone, even if he has guardians. Heberick smiled and said he has always been alone. Lorik asked then why he smiled. In his mind, Heberick thought because he grieves for humanity, this family so at war with itself. When he spoke, he told Lorik that he would not answer that question. Sha'ik said she wanted to talk to Heberick alone. Heberick said that was too bad, and he was done talking, even to her. He would leave her with this one comment. Have faith in the master of the deck. He shall answer the House of Chains. Felison the Younger took his arm and led him away. Outside, Camus Rouleau and Corvolo Dom trained troops in the Malazan style, which Heberick thought was his only smart move so far. The Malazan army would meet its match in tactics and disposition of forces. It would be numbers that would decide the fight. The threat of munitions would be answered with sorcery, as the Whirlwind had a full cadre of high mages, while Tavor had nil and nether. He wondered why Tavor would need mages, as she had an Otadral sword, but realized it wouldn't protect the entire army. and that the Sha'ik may defeat her sister after all. Felison the Younger asked where he would go. Hebrick said home. Felison the Younger said that isn't what she meant. Hebrick was confused. Felson the Younger said he needed to leave, retrace his path. Otherwise, what haunts him will kill him. Hebrick asked why that mattered. She said to think of more than himself for a moment. There's something contained within his mortal flesh. What would happen to it when his flesh failed? He was silent a moment before he asked how she could be so sure. His death might negate the chance for it to escape. It might shut and seal the portal as it was before. Felison the Younger said there was no going back. The power behind his hands is here, not the Otateral, which keeps fading. This surprised Hebrick. Felison the Younger asked if his visions and dreams had not gotten worse. Did he not realize why? Her mother had said the Otateral Isle had been created to keep the statue prisoner, but he had given it a means of escape through his hand, so he had to go back. Hebrick said enough and asked if her mother had also told her of how she was on that journey. Felison the Younger said what she was in the past no longer mattered. Hebrick disagreed. He did not speak the words out loud, but thought how Sha'ik is Malazan, is Tavor's sister. The war was no longer the whirlwinds. It had been stolen away and twisted into something more powerful, blood ties that bind them worse than the harshest chains. Felison the Younger said he must go, and that she knew he could not do it alone, so she would go with. Hebrick staggered at hearing this, thinking it was a terrible idea. She said she could get someone else to come too, a warrior, a protector. Hebrick wanted to know who she had talked to about this. He thought it would be a good way to get her away from Diddythal. She said she had spoken to no one about it, but thought Leoman could pick someone, maybe one of Mathok's people. Hebrick told her to keep quiet about it for now, and that he wanted to go home. Felison the Younger said they didn't have much time. An interesting section.
It definitely is.
This section and chapter, it was another one of those chapters where I don't think I really appreciated it until I was summarizing and rereading it, because the first time through, it didn't really do much for me. I was kind of a little bit bored, kind of not interested in much of what was happening.
Sure.
But when I reread it and was summarizing it, there's kind of a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of feel the sense of urgency here, right? Hebrick knows. I guess you may bring this point up, but if you don't, remind me at the end.
What did I have here for thoughts? Let's see. So, yeah, the House of Chains was a part of their fate now, but was an enemy or a new source of strength. So, I guess I don't know if I would treat it as an enemy or not, but I would definitely be, cautious, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even if, it wants some sort of an alliance.
What do you mean? What do you think there means?
Where
it goes, the House of Chains is a part of their fate now, but was it an enemy or a new source of strength? So what do you think there is referring to?
I would think it's probably the word there is at least referring to Sha'ik and the upper command, I guess. I don't know, maybe
Sure.
not necessarily the entire rebellion, maybe not the common foot soldier who's just.
I mean, just on naming convention alone, how does the House of Chains tie into the whirlwind? What is chaining the whirlwind? Are there any chains or links or bonds that the whirlwind and the Apocalypse Army have?
Well, I mean, you've got Felison, she didn't ask to be Sha'ik, right?
Yeah.
And she got kind of roped into that, for lack of a better term.
When I see there, it's like the possessive form of there. I think it is referring to Tavor, Felazan, and Gnos, because family, as it states at the very end of the section here, blood ties that bind them worse than the harshest chains.
Tying the Paran family, then.
So going back to your theory from all the way to the book one, right? Your theory is what? That Gnos is going to kill Tavor because Tavor kills
Felison.
Felazan, right? That's kind of where you stand. In the eyes of the crippled god, what is that?
Fucked up.
But it's a flaw, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
also, I mean, I'm starting to think that the House of Chains has nothing to do with the crippled god. I think he just created it. But I think that there's a potential that the storyline that you have potentially predicted is at the center of the House of Chains. Because usually if you're chained to something, right? Like if you can't escape,
You got to break those chains.
right? So therefore you would be part of a House of Chains, right?
Sometimes you just get me more excited about my own shit.
Sorry, dude.
No, dude, don't be sorry.
Yeah, I think that and you know, again, Boric has this whole like he feels so bad for Sha'ik right now. Because one, he knows, and sorry if I'm stealing your spotlight, like you could just tell me to fuck off.
Oh, dude, you're good. You're right.
He knows that the master of the deck is Gano's Paran. She knows that Gano's is alive, but she does not know, based on the description of the card, that he is the master of the deck.
He doesn't obviously want to tell her because it's gonna, like it'll break her heart, basically.
Right. But also, what does that do for her high mages? Right? That is, if they find out that the master of the deck is Sha'ik's brother, right? Like they're gonna frenzy, they're gonna plot, they're gonna do everything that they can because he's the ultimate power, right? Like he is the one that says yay or nay. And as you saw in this section, he cleaves his own path, as is the Gano's way, right? Like he don't give a fuck. You see what he did with Open? You know, like he's gonna do his own thing, and who gives a shit what else?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
But that was I was gonna ask your thoughts on it, and you gave them to me, so that was good. I liked it.
Thanks.
That's my next thought here. Heberick thought that Sha'ik had not understood Bidethal's meaning, and I'm not sure. Oh, how can one control the uncontrollable? I guess I don't know. Maybe I just need you to explain it to me here, but I don't really know that I'm following Bidethal's thinking.
What I'm trying to remember what he actually said.
It's like when he's, Sha'ik says she wants to see the unaligned card again, and Bidethal is annoyed by this, right? But he digs the card out.
Yeah.
And he says, if any of the new arrivals are dubious, it is this card. Master of the deck? What a crock of shit. How can one control the uncontrollable?
Is that line for line from the book though?
It's probably close.
Okay.
But then Heberick thinks that Sha'ik didn't understand what Bidethal meant. So I feel like it's kind of a shot at Sha'ik. And I guess I don't know.
I remember. I think. Yeah, I remember. Like wondering about this too. So like that's where I'm like, okay, show once more the new unaligned. Yes, for the thousandth. Scowling, Bidethal searched through the deck, then drew out the card, which he laid down in the center of the goat hair mat. If any of the new arrivals is dubious, the old man sneered. It is this one, master of the deck. Absurd. How can one control the uncontrollable? There was silence. The uncontrollable, such as the whirlwind itself. Sha'ik had clearly not caught the insinuation. I'm at a loss. I feel like I had thoughts at one point in time, but I don't remember them.
All right.
Yeah. How can one control the uncontrollable? And that's the whirlwind. He's making a snap at the whirlwind.
Do you think maybe that's another feather in the cap for it being an illusion?
Potentially. Maybe Bidethal knows that it is an illusion and therefore is like, well, that's dubious.
Interesting.
So, I don't know. I guess I could be right. I could be wrong. Community, feel free to do your thing.
I don't know if you're going to turn out to be right on that illusion thing, but I'm kind of liking that the more we go.
All right.
This paragraph that I have here where Sha'ik is describing Gnos, right? Like, and she doesn't know it. She says, I know it's a man. He's standing on a bridge of stone. There's cracks all the way through it. There's other people. They're standing on bones, blah, 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 like all that. And all that stuff seems to be like super fucking important. I don't remember, does Gnos have a scar on his face?
He does.
Okay, I don't remember that happening then. And I was thinking, well, maybe it just hasn't happened yet, but
It happened at the end of Memories of Ice.
when he got what happened exactly?
Remember he went hound and he was fighting one of the Panion's gargoyle fucking birds.
Oh, one of the
vultures or what?
Was it one of the condors?
Is it condor? Or is it something else? But yeah, bigger bird. I don't remember now.
I was going to grab my book, but I don't know if I could page through it and find it that quick.
Yeah. But yeah, the Panion seers bird fuckers, at the end where Paran is fighting one, and he kills it by turning into a hound or, having some type of hound, like he's battling inside of it like Megazord or something like that. You know what I mean?
I just tried to the Memories of Ice bird, but I don't think it was specific enough. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt either.
No, you're fine.
I feel like it's going to bug us both till we know what
Demonic
they were.
condors. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, it was condors. Okay.
Yeah, winged ones.
There you go. That was
his winged ones. So yeah, he was fighting one of those, and remember, he got like half of his face cut off, and then he wakes up, and it's like nighttime. Mallet is healing him, and he's just like, I don't have time for this. Like, I have to strategize. You know what I mean? And he just shows up to the meeting, and like half of his cheek is like missing.
Okay, I remember that a little bit. Yeah, I guess I didn't. I remember him fighting. I don't remember that he had a scar.
Yeah.
But like the rest of that too, like that whole scene being described, like all that stuff seems to be important.
I mean, everything else seems to make sense, right? Like the bridge burners, the bridge on fire, right? Bridge burners. The Guardians are the actual bridge burners. The only thing that I can't quite decipher is the bones, because apparently they're not human. They almost seem to be like animal bones, but they're wearing helmets. Is that kind of what you interpreted?
Well, I was thinking I wonder if they're like Talan, because it says they're big. But yeah, there is the one that has the description. That was one of my talking points. But a skull with a long snout and fanged, and it made me wonder if that wasn't some sort of elephant type creature, with a trunk and tusks or something.
Yeah.
Not so much fangs, but tusks. I don't know.
I think more like carnivore mammal, like a bear or a leopard or dog, wolf, something with a long snout and fanged, right? So my only interpretation is that these are the bones of Soul Taken and Divers.
Could be. I suppose, yeah, I don't think there's actually bones in an elephant's trunk, so
right. But I feel like this has something to do with that is brought up in your last section. Not your last section, but your section 4.
I'm trying to remember what that is now.
It has to do with the shell and Kimlock.
Right now. Drawing a blank right now.
All right.
So, sorry to disappoint you.
Oh no, it's not disappointing. It's just more I get to share.
All right. Sha'ik is describing what we know to be Gnos, right? I thought the way she's describing his arms, and it says his arms are out and bent at the elbow, so the hands depend away from the body. It is a strange posture. And I don't think I've ever heard the word depend used like this, so I don't really know what it means. But then it says he's like a sword. So I don't know if I can get myself on camera, but kind of what I'm imagining is, he's got his feet together, but he's just I can't get myself, but I don't know.
I think
Are you gonna draw a picture?
Yep.
I think of like a tarot card or something.
Obviously, this is more crude than I would usually do, but like that, right?
Yeah, but maybe with the elbows bent a little more. But essentially, yes, that's what I think. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, probably. I don't even know if you can. Yeah, I suppose you could. But yeah, I got the same thing too. So, because he's the, what do they say in the third one? He's the one who walks within the sword or whatever. So do you think that's 100% referring to Dragnapur? Or do you think that's just the characteristic of his card?
I'm not sure.
And like the whole, he's going to cleave his own path. You know what I mean? Like if you are the embodiment of a sword, you can go where you please, right?
Yeah, I guess I'd go with that. I guess I hadn't thought about it in terms like that, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. Just that whole like description just throws me for a loop.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, it's one of those things where like anytime you're describing an image, right? Like everyone's going to have a different way of interpreting that.
Yeah. But what I do know is the sword is dangerous, right?
Yes.
Paran is going to be dangerous.
Gonna be dangerous.
Do you have anything before we go to this point? Anything you wanted to mention?
No, not at all.
All right. So Fellison the Younger talking to Hebrick says he needs to leave, retrace his path, otherwise what haunts him will kill him. And I'm assuming that that's saying he needs to go to the Jade statue, right? Like, we kind of already know he needs to go there, but I just feel like this is another person telling him, like, he needs to go there.
Well, I don't think that he recognizes, I guess, the imminent danger that he's in, because he clearly doesn't understand that what he's dreaming and what is haunting him is because of the fact that the Otatero that had infused in him at the end of leaving the island is fading. It's getting worse, right? Like it's not able to protect him from the Jade influence any longer.
I'm very curious about this whole situation, and we're just slowly getting bits and bits and bits, but it's like not enough. Not enough at once to just like know what's going on,
Right.
Like, and it's annoying because it's like I just want to fucking know.
Well, I mean, it's escaped, right? Like, and it's funny that, like, going back to Dead House Gates, how something as simple as that could just be missed. Like, it escaped. It escaped its prison. Just like Haborik, Bowden, and Felizan.
True.
To do what?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't quite understand the whole ghost hand thing. Was that there before or after? Like, I'm definitely excited to reread Dead House Gates. So
I mean, at this point, it's still my favorite.
I would agree.
This whole paragraph, that I have here, where Fellison the Younger is talking to him, asking him if his dreams are they getting worse. Like, do you not understand why? Her mother said the Otatero Isle was created to keep the statue prisoner, but he, Heberick, had given it the means to escape. So he's got to go back. Like all this stuff. Like this is kind of, I was just saying I wanted all the information, right? And I feel like this is dumping a lot of the information into our laps, but I don't really know how to break it down and decipher it and just unpack it all either. So it's like,
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's more just kind of confirming or setting the tone as to what it is. Because you're kind of left with some mystery a little bit. I think this is just kind of, yeah. But also my question is like, how does Sha'ik know what these things are? More so than Haborik. Like, is she just telling everybody about her journey? And then and they're just giving her what they think it is?
well, doesn't she have memories from Sha'ik the Elder?
Well, why would Sha'ik the Elder have memories of jade statues?
It could be just like this could be like a cyclical thing here.
Maybe.
How many Sha'iks have been there, and the knowledge keeps getting passed down.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I could buy that.
I'll sell it cheap.
So does that mean that Sha'ik is like a Tano spirit walker or whatever? Since their songs are elliptical.
Hmm. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, you're right. There's definitely a lot to unpack, but I'm excited for it to be unpacked. Like, kind of seems at this point, Arza, Leomin, Haborik, Fellows and Younger are about ready to journey away from Sha'ik, which kind of makes me feel like there isn't as much of an importance on the Tavor Sha'ik battles. You know what I mean?
I think those. I mean, I think they're still going to be pretty important.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying that, like, the emphasis is going to be on these characters' journeys more so than, like, what we as readers are supposed to take away are going to happen during these journeys rather than, like, the fighting itself. Deadhouse seemed to be focused on the fighting, and then there was all these other things around it. I think it's going to be the other way around.
I guess I don't know how I'm supposed to think either one of them. You know, whichever way I go is supposed to be more or less important than the other.
I mean, I guess that's fair. I'm not trying to say that, like, one is more or not important. I guess what I'm just trying to say is that, like, the focus is going to be on these additional stories, and more out of focus are going to be the fighting.
I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a pretty big part of the story.
I guess we'll see. I don't know.
I mean, we got Tavor on the continent here, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that it's going to get resolved in this book or not, or if it'll be continuing throughout the books.
Do you think that, like, they're going to do, like, a reverse chain of dogs? They're going to, like, walk back the way the chain of dogs went and maybe, like, pick up clues about this, that, or the other thing? I mean,
No, I think there's going to be, a couple probably pretty major battles. I don't know, 1 to 3 big engagements
yeah. Okay.
that,
That cripple one side or the other.
yeah, I don't know if one's going to be completely decimated or not. Or, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. But I feel like we got to be getting close to, like,
Some type of engagement.
to the first fight coming up here.
Yeah.
If it's not in this next chapter, I would think in the beginning, the next sub book, I'd have to think we're going to see a fight here pretty quick. Because, I mean, we're definitely building to it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the tension's there. I guess that's our Rafa moment, right? We'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. So Leomin asked Karza if he would accompany him. Karza said that this would be impossible on the tiny-ass mounts that were available. The snakes had begun dispersing, looking for food. Leomin said that Karza was wrong in that there were Tebler mounts. Not here, of course, but out to the west on the Jag Odin. There are wild horses that would match Karza's side. They were bred by the Jag long ago. Karza asked why he had not mentioned this before. Leomin crouches down to let the snake slither down his arm and onto the ground. He explains that he hasn't heard Karza talk about horses and admits that he knows nothing about Tebler history. Karza asks about the Jag Odin. Leomin gives Karza specific directions to the Jag Odin and explains that there was some irony in this, as there used to be a band of nomadic Jag. Thus the name Jag Odin. But these Jag had fell hard. They had existed for so long that there were little more than savages. Karza wondered if they were still there. Leomin explained that they were slaughtered by the Logros Talan Imas. Karza bared his teeth and said that the Imas were part of the Templar past. Leomin said that they were closer than that, and straightened and recommended that Karza seek leave from Sha'ik to gather up one of these horses, as it would be badass on the battlefield to see Karza riding a horse of that size. Karza smiled in the darkness and told Leomin that the journey would be long and not to wait for him. Karza asked about Fellows Younger, though. Leoman was silent for a moment and then explained that Haborik was aware of the threat. Karza said that this wouldn't do anything, and he should just kill Bithadol and get it over with. Leoman explains to Karza that Ghost Hands has more on his mind and will likely leave camp soon. And when he does, he will take Fellows Younger with him. Karza said that this wasn't really that much of a better option, as she would just become the old man's nurse. Leoman said that this may be true, but suggested that if Sha'ik didn't need the Teblar warrior, that he should be the one to accompany them. Karza did not like the suggestion at all, as he had traveled with Ghost Hands in the past once, and he will not do it again. Leoman explains that Haborik has truths for the Teblar, and one day may even have to seek out the ex-priest of Fenner to ask him for his help. Karza said that he didn't need any help, and he was done with this conversation. Leoman grinned in the dark and asked when he would leave for the Jag Odin. Karza replied that he would leave tomorrow morning. Leoman said that he must get word to Sha'ik. Hopefully, it would be enough of a distraction from all of her House of Chains talk. Those words piqued Karza's interest. Asked what that was. Leoman said that it was some new house within the Deck of Dragons. Karza turned towards Uragal's likeness and said that he despised chains. Leoman asked if he would see the Teblar off before leaving in the morning. Karza said that he definitely would. Karza listened as Leoman walked away. His mind was a storm of thoughts, particularly around chains. They had haunted him ever since he and Bayroth and Delum had left the village, potentially even before. Events of life often did tie chains to one another. Chains tied between the Teblar and their gods, between him and his gods. Chains in his visions, the dead he had slain, the souls Ghost Hand says he dragged along in his wake. All that he is was shaped by chains. He wonders if this new house was his. A sudden cold was felt in the clearing, a final rush as the last of the snakes left the clearing. Karza saw Uragal's face awaken in the carving in the tree. Karza heard the howling of wind in his mind, the moans of 1,000 souls, chains snapping. He braved those images mentally and fixed his gaze on the god's face. Uragal said to Karza that it took him a long time to fashion the sacred place. More time was spent on the fashioning of Karza's fallen friends, who had failed Karza, had they not? Uragal says that their presence offends them, and orders Karza to destroy them tonight. All of the 7 were awake now, and Karza could feel their thoughts about him, a deathly pressure behind which lurked something dark. Karza tells Uragal that he has fashioned this place with his hand, and his hand had freed them from their prison of rock amongst the Teblar. He questions why their first words of him are of critique, and to be careful as he could smash any statue he wanted. He felt their rage after that comment, but he stood his ground beneath their onslaught. The Teblar warrior that would bend to his gods was no more. Uragal finally said that they have been brought closer to what they seek. That is where Karza must go, as the journey has been delayed for quite some time. Hiding for too long in the company of this petty spirit who does little more than spit sand. Karza asked what it was they wanted from him. Uragal said that they want what he wants, and that is freedom. Karza was silent and speculated that he was to travel west out to the Jag Odin. He sensed the 7's shock and excitement, but followed by suspicion. Uragal said that the west indeed was the path, but asked how the Teblar knew. Inside his head, he says because he is his father's son. Out loud, he says that tomorrow he will find what it is that they desire. He could feel their presence retreating and knew that these gods were nowhere near as free as they'd have him believe they were, nor as powerful. Urigal had called this place a temple, but it was a contested one. Even now, as the gods left, he turned to those who this place had truly been sanctified for by his own hands. Chains a mortal could wear with pride. Karza quietly said his loyalty was misplaced. He really only served glory. Words, and those words could be dishonest, disguising truths. The true glory was beside him, Bayroth and Delim. From the stone statue of Bayroth, a voice told Karza to lead them. Karza flinched and wondered if he was imagining things. He asked if they had rode the wake of the seven to this place. Bayroth replied that they have walked the empty lands, yet not alone. Strangers await them all, Karza. This is the truth they hide from him. We are summoned, and we are here. Delim added from his statue that none would defeat Karza on this journey. Bayroth asked, who is their enemy? Karza drew himself up and told him to witness his answer. Delim spoke, saying that they have failed him. Yet Karza invited them to walk alongside him once more. Karza fought back a scream. A wave of emotion swirled in his head, reminded of how calm had destroyed Delim. Bayroth repeated Delim's question. Karza said that he was the one who had failed them, and if they would permit him, he'd like to be their war leader once more. Silence followed, and Bayroth spoke. They had something to look forward to. Karza almost fell to his knees. His grief finally unleashed. His penance and solitude was over. The journey to begin again. Inside his head, he told Urigal that the god would witness, and shall witness indeed.
You did good.
So I know I mentioned this earlier, but I thought it was interesting that I ended up with all of Karza's sections. I like Karza.
Yeah.
Yeah. My first thought here, the snakes had begun dispersing, looking for food. But and I'm not sure why this whole concept of like desert snake kind of jogged my memory of the beginning and end of Memories of Ice, where the Witch of Tanis was calling Quick Ben the desert snake. So it's just an interesting comparison. And no, this isn't season 2 all over again, where like I think Quick Ben is fucking everybody. Not like having sex with everybody, but like is everybody.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah. So I don't know if Leoman here is like a snake to the whirlwind or a snake to Raraku or something like that. It's just interesting that Quick Ben to the Witch of Burn essentially is the snake of the desert. Like, what does that mean? Is there a correlation?
I don't know. I'm not sure, man.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think that, like, what I'm not trying to say is that Leoman is Quick Ben. That's not what I'm trying to say.
I didn't get that sense you were.
Okay, all right. It's just funny that there's such an emphasis on snakes, but yet Quick Ben, at least to one person, is known as the desert snake.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any form of rebuttal for you.
That's fair. I don't even really know if I have a rebuttal for myself. Yeah, it just got me thinking, you know. There's
Sure.
all these like snakes coming up, and I'm like, oh, well, Quick Ben was named the desert snake. I wonder if there's a correlation there, you know. So this comment here, Leoman is talking about like obviously the oversized horses here, and they were bred by the Jag Hut long ago. You know, to dumb it down for me, basically the same breed of horses were used by the Jag Hut and the Teblor. It's kind of cool to think about it like that. I don't know if that's like foreshadowing of some kind. Is this insinuating that because the Teblor and the Jaghut essentially use the same breed of horse, that maybe there's some type of connection between the Teblor and the Jaghut? You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like, I highly doubt it because Teblor really don't have Jaghut features. I guess I never really imagined Jaghut as being giant, but maybe I know that they're larger and there's, like Carrion, they're half breeds.
I felt like Reyes. I thought Reyes was pretty big.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would consider it a giant. Like, I mean, yeah. I mean, definitely bigger than like a human, you or I, right?
Yeah. Because Karza's what, like 9-10 feet tall?
Something like that. I mean, yeah, he's considerably a pretty large size.
So the Jaghut would be of similar comparison, no?
Maybe they just like riding big horses. I don't know. It's like the equivalent of a jacked up truck.
Leoman makes this damn comment about, Karza, kind of like bares his teeth, right? And he's like, the Amass are part of the Teblor past. And Leoman's like, yeah, they're closer than that, buddy. He says this, I think, because he recognizes them as Karsa's gods. Like back in the first section, when he kind of has this like, and then he's going to make this, he was going to say one thing, but then he ends up talking about the Malazans. So that's kind of like that point where like I feel like that is where you can distinctively say that Leoman has recognized Karsa's gods.
Interesting.
Do you see that, or am I like crazy?
I don't think you're crazy, but I don't think I noticed that. I mean, I remember like thinking that was an interesting thing to say, but I didn't really develop a thought past that.
Gotcha. But you're developing thoughts now, though, right?
Maybe a little bit, but probably not a lot. You see what color my hair is? I'm blonde, dude. I'm dumb as fuck. I still think it's interesting. And it makes me wonder, I guess, like the thought that I'm forming is like, what does Leoman know that he's not telling us yet, anyways?
I think that as this chapter goes on, it's definitely one of those things where we find out without being distinctively told.
Okay.
Interesting. All right. Anyway, next thought. Karza smiled in the darkness. So I associate this to Karza is definitely interested in finding an oversized horse for himself to ride. But I think that he's smiling because he's not coming back. He knows that he is leaving. He's made up his mind. He's out.
Where do you think he's going to go?
The Jag Odin.
To get the horse?
Yes.
And then what?
I'll tell you later.
Okay. All right. I'll be patient then.
Okay.
Like, are we going to talk about this later this episode? Or
Yeah,
like
I think it's happening in the next section. It's going back to the conversation about, Leoman and Karza about, Haboric being aware of the threat. Wasn't Karza there when Leoman told Haboric about Bidithol and his desires? Or are they talking about a different threat?
I do not remember.
Because I'm pretty sure that when Haboric went down to the snake pit, that Leoman was, doping it up with the Durhang.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure Karsa was there, but Karsa, it was like, why don't you tell him that I said this? And like, if it even went that far, I think you're right. I think he was there.
So it kind of comes as a little bit of surprise to me, because I kind of got the sense that like Karsa was unaware of the fact that Haboric knew about Bidithal's desires. I don't know. It just kind of caught me off guard, and maybe like I'm not understanding, maybe it's just more of like yeah, we're aware of like Bidethal and the danger it poses to fellows and younger, blah blah blah. You know, maybe it's just kind of like a recap of things, and I'm just not seeing it that way. Next thought. Haboric has truths for the Teblor, and one day may even seek him out to ask for his help. So I don't know if it's really the truths, or maybe it's potentially the nature of the truths. But I found it interesting that Karza was completely and 100% okay with Sha'ik Elder sharing truths about the Teblor, but yet when it came to Haboric, he was completely like upset about it. And I understand that maybe the difference between what Haboric is laying down and what Sha'ik Elder was laying down is that Haboric's is maybe a little bit more personal.
As you're referring to like the souls and stuff that
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I would think too, is that it's just that personal touch that I think maybe he doesn't appreciate. I would agree with you.
Because it like hits home a lot harder.
Yeah, for sure. It's like he's getting called out.
But then you would think that if Sha'ik Elder is giving him truths, but they're so vague that you would almost be curious as to what those mean, that you would be a little bit more open, right? Like, am I crazy for thinking that?
I don't think that you're crazy.
Like, if I were Karza and I had experience with some type of thing that could tell me some truths about my life, but we're maybe like a little like, okay, well, like that makes sense, but I don't really quite understand. And then I meet somebody else who's like, yeah, you're a dick because you killed lots of people. I'd be like, okay, that's a little personal, but like, I get it. I don't know if I would have the type of resentment that Karza would.
Well, you also haven't had those same experiences that Karsa has, unless you have murdered a bunch of people and nobody knows about it.
Don't say anything.
I didn't say anything.
All right. Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. I don't know. I don't know. I found it like slightly contradictory, but like not hugely by any means. It was just something to call out, I guess. All right. So this part where Karza's like it's slightly after where Leoman and Karza are talking about the House of Chains, right? And he's just like, you know what, this is weird because I feel like my entire life has been shaped by chains. Even for myself, I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. Like, even throughout the events of this book would totally support that. The chain of lightning, right, in chapter 3, right before they end up in this weird warren, the actual binding of the many countless chains that he's experienced throughout this book. So it's like it's hard to not agree with him.
Yeah.
I guess all that I'm getting at. So this whole part where Uragal awakens and he's like, you know what? You've been an asshole because you took 3 years to fucking fashion this place. But you almost spent more time on your best friends here. They offend me. And I just couldn't help but think of like, wow, what a bunch of fucking dicks.
Dude, so I struggled with that part in the sense that I really wonder, like, is it real? Is it just in his head? Like, I don't know. Is it real or not? I don't know. I mean, he's obviously hearing it. He's having this conversation, but I don't know if it's like a hallucination, I guess, or if, like, I don't think he's high or anything like that, but I don't know. If you walked in and saw this, what do you see? Is Karsa just talking to himself? Do you think? Is that what it would appear like?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah. So this part where Karza kind of makes this comment about like, hey, you know what? Like I just woke your ass up. You're now actually not confined to that continent over there. Right?
Genebacus.
Genebacus, yes. So like, hey, you should be a little bit more appreciative because like I could smash you just as easily as you have ordered me to do. And this comment where he was, they like Karza felt their rage, but he stood his ground beneath their onslaught of rage. And I couldn't help but think, kind of in a similar fashion to how Raraku stands against time and the onslaught of sorcery after sorcery, even the whirlwind.
It is interesting.
And I know that, like, I think it was chapter 7, where Sha'ik Younger, fellows an elder, is like, I think it's you, Karza. So I think that for whatever reason, Karza and Raraku are linked in some way, shape, or form.
That would be interesting.
Because there seems to be a lot of similarities between the two.
I don't think I'm against that idea.
And similarities is probably not the right word, but there's a lot of like things that would tie the two or chain
Ooh.
the two together, right?
Look at you.
So, and then, obviously there's this part that, Urgal kind of reveals that the 7 have been brought closer to what they seek, and that unfortunately Karza must continue on. And they make this comment about Karza journeying to themselves, as in the 7, right? So I kind of wonder if Karza is to seek out the initial resting place of the 7 and reunite their spirits with their bones, or something along that nature. And from what I understand, the 7 defied the ritual in some way, shape, or form of the Talani Mass. So I'm wondering if, like, what we know about the Mass doesn't apply to the 7.
I don't know.
It's just interesting. I mean,
Could put a pin in that one for sure.
oh yeah, this whole chapter is a pin. But also, they make this comment about how Karza has been in the company of this petty spirit who does little more than spit sand, right? That almost seems to be like there's some history there. Like, so I almost kind of wonder if, like, maybe the whirlwind has some beef with the 7 or vice versa. I mean, it could purely just be a judgment, right, of the 7, but maybe there's some history there.
Could be.
Because again, I get the feeling that 7 started from 7 cities. And then there's this comment about Arza saying that inside him, like, he has this thought. He's answering the 7 and their, like, suspicions as to how the 7, or how he knows that the 7 wanted him to go to the Jag Odin. And inside of his head, he's like, well, because I'm my father's son. At first read through, I didn't really understand how he knew what they wanted from him. But I think that Karza puts it together when he sees Leoman react to the carving. And also when Leoman talks about the Jaghut being slaughtered by the Amass. So he takes Leoman's reaction of the carvings of the 7 and Leoman's conversation about the Jaghut being slaughtered by the Amass and his comment about how they're closer to Karza's history than Karza thinks. So I think that's kind of how he has this, like, confidence to just defy his gods.
Well, also, I mean, what if he did destroy their statues that he made.
They would have to wait for the Witness trilogy.
Buys him some time, I guess.
I mean, I'll give the 7 credit. They seem very patient.
They don't really have a choice, though.
I mean, that's true, but it's not like you can't, have a character overreact here and there,
Yeah.
So I find it interesting that, like, it's not explicitly said that, like, this is how Karza has figured it out. And this, to me, is where Karza has a turning point. Like, yes, it has taken him 3 years to essentially get here, but this is kind of where he's like, I'm standing my ground. You guys are full of shit. Fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It begs the question, what exactly is Karza doing on their behalf? It's interesting to me that Leoman talks about the Jag Odin. He tells the 7 that he's going to the Jag Odin, and they seem shocked that he knows already their intentions. And so my thought is like, okay, well, we know that the Amass and the Jag Hut have had beef with each other. So I'm wondering if there's something in the Jag Odin that the 7 weren't able to complete.
Like what?
I don't know. Yeah, that's the part where I'm like, I don't know.
I was just curious if you had any ideas. I don't have any ideas, but
I feel like it could go so many different directions.
read and find out.
Meh. Yes, pretty much. But it's like, it's nice to ponder on. It's nice to think about.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh, wow. Yeah, this is the second to last comment. Holy shit. I loved this part where, like, Bayroth and Delum, in Karza's mind, reply that they have walked the empty lands, but yet they were not alone, and that strangers await Karza, and that this is the truth that the 7 hide from Karza, and that Bayroth and Delum are summoned, and that they are there. I just thought that it was cool as hell. I kind of have, like, a little bit maybe of a vague idea on what's going on or what's taking place here, but I feel like this concept is just cool as hell. And, like, I never would have thought, 4 or 5 chapters ago that Bayroth and Delum spiritually would be back,
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either, and that's kind of why, like, I had a hard time with that part, thinking, is this actually happening or not? Is this real, or is it like a figment of his imagination or something? I don't know.
I feel like it's between figment of your imagination and reality. And I feel like this is supposed to represent that, like, what Haboric has been pointing out to Karza is that, like, hey, yeah, you've got some weight behind you. You've got some chains. I think that this is the part where, like, Karza is embracing his chains. And, like, instead of it being a negative connotation, he's taking them and turning it into, like, a positive thing. Like, this is the part to me where Karza is like, hey, I fucked up, y'all. And they're just like, hey, we forgive you. It's so powerful to me. And, like, this is why I keep liking Karza over and over and over again. It's because he's humble about it. He's like, I fucked up. I was an arrogant asshole before.
Just like a weight off his shoulders, like he's maybe kind of like he's releasing himself from the chains a little bit.
Exactly. The end of the section, it left me feeling like I could cry. Like it was emotional. He finally gets his forgiveness. He's able to, like, move on. 1, by standing up to his gods, and 2, the fact that, like, he can move on from his guilt.
Do you think we'll continue to see a new leaf of Karza? I guess to word it that way. Probably not perfect, but
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that he'll still be violent because
yeah. I mean, he's just got that capability. Like, Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that like he's no longer allowing the binds to guide him, and that he's kind of like forging his own path, similar to Paran.
Hmm.
But I also have this like weird suspicion that the seven are guiding him to the crippled god. I feel like they want him to be in servitude of the crippled god.
To what end?
I don't know. To be what Yathol was, some type of player in the house, some type of card. You cannot tell me that a guy riddled with chains in his history is not destined for the house of chains. Kind of going back to his question of like, is this house made for me? Well, kind of seems that way.
But what if it's not how you think, though? What if he's destined to, like, break it?
I hope so. Like, I would hate to think that Karza ends up fighting for the crippled god. Karza is deeply flawed, and that is what the crippled god wants.
Even though he's starting to, like, accept those flaws and maybe learn from them, you think the crippled god will still want him?
Maybe that is the way that he breaks his chains. Sure.
Okay.
How am I
I'm not
doing?
against any of that. I'm just asking some questions, that's all.
No, it's fair. It's fair.
Well, you got anything else here?
No, that was my last thought.
All right. Well, we'll keep going here. When Falison the Younger had lit the fire, it had reduced to ashes, and Hebrick sat alone. After a few minutes, he decided to rebuild the fire as the night had chilled him. His own hands that he could not see felt the cold, like icicles on his wrists. The journey he had before him was short, and he must walk it alone. He was blind, but no more than anyone else. Death was ever a surprise, whether first glimpsed from afar or the next step taken. A promise that there would be no more questions, no answers beyond. Cessation would have to be enough. That must be enough for a mortal, even as they hunger for resolution, or, if more delusional, redemption. After all this time, Hebrick realized that every path in life eventually ended in a single line of footsteps. Then they were gone, and now he faced what every mortal faced, the finality of death, and oblivion's final gift to them was indifference. Hebrick didn't care if the gods fought over his soul, and if the other mortals grieved for him. It was because his death had shaken the illusion of unity from them. Lorik entered and asked Hebrick if he desired to make his home a pyre. Hebrick was surprised to hear a voice and realized that sweat was pouring down his face. Lorik suggested letting the flames die down. Hebrick asked what he wanted. Lorik said he understood not wanting to give Bidethal and Febril the information he knew of the Master of the Deck. Lorik suggested a trade of information between the two of them. Hebrick wasn't sure why he thought he would trust him. Lorik has given no reason why he is here in the cadre for Sha'ik, why he is in this war. Lorik said that should be enough to let him know that he was different from the others. Hebrick sneered and said that counted for less than he would have thought. Plus, Lorik could tell him nothing that he would care to hear. Febril and his schemes? The man is a fool. Bidethal's perversions? One day, a child will stab him. Corbolo Dam and Camus Rouleau, they wage a war against an empire that is far from dead, and they will not be treated well when they are drugged before the Empress. The Whirlwind? The goddess has his contempt which grows by the day. So he asks again, what could Lorik tell him that he gave a damn about? Lorik said he would tell him the one thing that would interest him. He would not be a cheat in this exchange. He would tell Hebrick all he knew of the Hand of Jade, the hand that rose from the Otadral sands, the hand that Hebrick had touched. Hebrick didn't understand how he could know this information. Lorik asked in return how he could know so much from just a description of the Master's card. Lorik said these were not questions to ask, as they would have a conversation that would outlive Rariku itself. So, would he like to begin the real conversation? Hebrick said no. He was too tired for this. Tomorrow would be better. Lorik said that may not be a good idea, but he can see the exhaustion written on Hebrick's face. At the minimum, he would like to brew some tea for Hebrick. Hebrick did not expect this kindness and bowed his head. He asked Lorik that when the day finally came, if the final day came, he would be a long ways away from here. Lorik said that would be a difficult thing to promise, but he would think on it. As Lorik prepared the tea, he asked Hebrick if he knew some of the oldest treatises on warrens speak of a triumvirate, Rashan, Thyr, and Mianus. As all three were closely related to each other, and all sought to link with the corresponding elder warren. Hebrick grunted in agreement. Tice warrens. The human warrens couldn't help but overlap, but he is no expert. It seems Lorik knows more than him. Lorik said there were definitely shared themes between darkness and shadow and presumably light, and Animander Rake himself had asserted a claim on the Shadow Throne. This was news to Hebrick. Lorik said he had kin protecting it at the very least, again assuming they were Teist Edu regarding it. It is difficult for mortals to make sense of the long-lived Teist and their histories. In human history, every now and then someone might make a big splash and change things or have a big personality, but these people are few and far between, and they eventually die. However, imagine the worst tyrant you can think of, and they are virtually undying. How would their history look in a case like that? Hebrick said they would be far more violent than the Teist, but he had also never heard of a Teist tyrant. Lorik said maybe he explained things poorly, but imagine if Kellenvid was eternal. Hebrick said maybe he was, but it must be considered that the Teist are no longer alone in their scheming. Humans are involved who don't have the patience of the Teist. Corald Gulain, Corald Emerlon are no longer pure and unsullied by human presence. Mianus and Rashan? Perhaps they are proving doors into both darkness and shadow. Or maybe it's more complex than that. How could one hope to separate darkness and light from shadow? Hebrick compared the triumvirate to a family. Father, mother, and child, but only now the extended family was involved also. He waited for a response from Lorik, which he did not get. He tried to focus on the mage and said he was trying to read his expression. Lorik said he would not be able to. He had come here to give warning of the Teist getting involved in human affairs, but Hebrick was here with his own warning. Apparently, the Teist had better watch their own back. Lorik poured the Henbara tea. Hebrick said he would be ever denied its effects, so he was ready to hear about this jade statue. Lorik said only as long as he would speak of the master of the deck. Hebrick said he couldn't elaborate on some aspects. Lorik wanted to know if it was because of Sha'ik's past. Hebrick freaked out a little bit and saying anyone could be listening. Lorik said he had taken care of that. No one would hear anything. He is also not careless with secrets. He knows of Hebrick's past, his escape from the mines, and that he is Malazan, and Sha'ik escaped with him. Lorik values privacy in his knowledge and thoughts. There have been attempts to pry knowledge from him in various ways, but he is vigilant. Hebrick said then his absence would be noticed. Lorik said as far as everyone else was concerned, he was sleeping peacefully in his tent. The same would be said of Hebrick. They were each alone, harmless. Hebrick said Lorik was more than a match for their sorceries. Also, he was more powerful than the others as well. If he wanted the details of the master of the deck and Sha'ik, then it must be the three of them who meet. And if that is the case, Lorik may need to reveal more of himself to Sha'ik than he wishes to. Lorik asked to know one thing. This new master, was he created in the wake of the Malazan disaster on Genebacus, or does he deny that? Is the bridge he stands on somehow related to the bridge burners? Are the ghostly guardians what remains of the bridge burners? Hebrick said he wasn't certain on any of that, but it seemed likely. Lorik said the Malazan influence is growing, not just in their world, but in the Warrens and deck as well. Hebrick said he is making the same mistakes as many of the Empire's enemies, assuming that all that is Malazan is unified on a single goal. However, things are much more complicated than that. Heberick did not believe that the master of the deck was a servant to the Empress. He didn't think the master bowed to anyone. Lorik wondered why then the bridge burners would be guardians. Heberick said some loyalties defied Hood. Lorik cut him off, saying the master must have been a part of the company, and now things were starting to make sense. He asked Heberick if he had ever heard of Kimlock. Heberick said it sounded vaguely familiar. His history is not important, but he must have been in contact recently with the bridge burner. There is no other explanation. He had given them a song, a Tano song, and it begins here in Rariku, which is where the bridge burners began. Did Heberick understand the significance of the song? Heberick turned away and said nothing. Lorik continued saying the significance had diminished some since the bridge burners are no longer a thing. There can be no sanctification. For the sanctification to take place, a bridge burner would have to return to Rariku, and that just doesn't seem likely anymore. Heberick asked why a bridge burner would need to return. Lorik said Tano sorcery is elliptical, like a serpent eating its tail. Kimlock's song of the bridge burners now has no end, but it has been sung, so it lives, like a spell that is active awaiting resolution. Heberick asked him to talk of the jade statue. Lorik said the first one was found in the mines. Heberick was surprised to hear there was more than one. Lorik told him contact for the first miners was fatal, or they just disappeared, leaving no trace. Sections of two others had been found and those veins had been sealed. They are intruders from another world. Heberick said they arrived only to be chained in Otateral. Lorik said he had some knowledge then, but each time they arrived, it was knowing they were coming. Someone, or something, made sure they were negated. Heberick stopped him, saying he thought he was wrong on that. Heberick believed it was the portal which the giants came through that created the Otateral. Lorik asked if he was sure. Heberick said hell no. There were too many mysteries surrounding Otateral to be sure of anything. There was a scholar. He couldn't remember her name, but she suggested that the Otateral was created by annihilating everything sorcery needed to operate. Lorik asked if she had a theory as to how this operated. Heberick said perhaps it was the magnitude of sorcery involved, a spell that is all-devouring of the energy it feeds on. Lorik didn't think the gods could wield magic that strong. Heberick agreed, but still thought it was possible, though, through a ritual, a cadre, or army of mages could accomplish. Lorik cited the ritual of Telan. Heberick said that, or calling down the crippled god. Lorik said nothing for the moment, then said he would tell Heberick one more thing. The need was dire, even if it revealed more of him than he wished. Heberick sat and listened until the fire went cold, until the only sensation left was that of his ghostly hands. Together at the ends of his wrists, they became the weight of the world. This, I feel like, was... I know when you and I were texting about this chapter, reading it, I told you I felt like it was kind of a tease, and this section is really why, because I don't really feel like we learned anything on the Jade statue. Like, I want to know more.
Nope. I would 100% agree with you.
But I think this, from what I'm remembering, was probably my favorite section. It was just really interesting. Heberick doesn't really want to have this conversation, but he ends up, having it and everything. And just like my first comment here, Heberick thinking about death, right? And how it will be an end. And he's almost like looking forward to that. No more questions, that type of deal. But yeah, damn, Heberick getting dark here, and it to me just almost feels like he's giving up a little bit, or like he's ready to give up soon.
I interpreted it the same.
I thought you were going to say it differently for a second, and I was interested to hear.
No, it's almost like he's like suicidal, but not willing to pull the trigger. You know what I mean? Like he's hoping for something else to take him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's like he's just, if an accident happens, then that's fine.
Right.
Kind of deal. Yeah, I would agree.
All right.
Next.
I was just saying it doesn't happen too often where we agree and we move on.
Oh, it happens sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair.
I thought it was interesting in the book. There's Lorik is telling Heberick he will tell him what he knows of the Hand of Jade, and Hand of Jade was capitalized. And I found that interesting. To me, it almost makes it a landmark, I guess, a known commodity, I suppose.
I know it's funny how, like, I guess when I was reading this section, I'm like, how does Lorik know about the Hand of Jade more than Haboric, who has experienced it?
I don't know.
I found it interesting. But as
I
you
think-
said, we really don't get more information. We kind of get summary of what the Hand of Jade is, which you as the reader kind of make up on your own.
Yeah. Next thought here, this word triumvirate. I don't know if you'd ever heard that word before.
Have not.
I knew it was 3 something, but I had to look it up, and it's just like a group of 3 people who share power, or 3 entities who share power. So we got these 3 Warrens.
Wasn't Tattersail practitioner of Tyr?
Could have been. I don't remember.
I could have swore she was a practitioner of Tyr, because I remember it being one of those things where, like, I haven't heard of that. And then it was like never mentioned again until now. Like the whole Minas Roshan makes sense, but like introducing Tyr was interesting to me.
I didn't really think too hard on that. Yeah, I guess I don't remember if that was her Warren.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Because you've got light, you've got shadow, and you've got darkness. As far as like the human Warrens are concerned, there should be 3 as well.
To balance it out.
Right.
Or to equal it.
Yeah.
This part here where they're talking about Kellenved, what if he was eternal, right? I thought eternal was an interesting choice of word, because eternal doesn't mean he's invincible, that he wouldn't be susceptible to being murdered.
Maybe. I don't know. Eternal's a weird word.
Yeah. Heberick thinking on Kimlock, but Kimlock had been in contact with the bridge burner, and I couldn't remember exactly who it was that he talked to, who gave the conch shell to, if it was Fiddler or Quickben Kalam. I thought it was one of those 3. I don't know if you remember who it was.
It was Fiddler.
So that had to be the one he was recently in contact with, right?
Correct. Yes.
All right. You've got a thought here. Let's do this. Is this your deep web theory?
This is what I was texting you about the other day. So
Okay.
Arza, in the beginning of this chapter, said that the Teblor sang a song when the 7 awoke. And they awoke in the minds of the shamans of the Teblor, right? I'm getting the sense that the shaman or the 7 were told the shamans the song. Like inside the minds of the shaman, the 7 are like, hey, sing the song. But Karza says that he knows what the shamans had dreamt because he had experienced those dreams. And it's my speculation that Urigal and the 7's instructions are kind of like demands, right? But those demands are nothing like the subliminal advertising that the song perpetuates, right? Like the message of the song is not the same as the message of your dreams, right? So I'm thinking that the 7 potentially preyed or predated upon the Tano and taught the Tano song to the Teblor shamans. The Tano song being elliptical or like cylindrical, which is comparable to the whole bridge burner situation, right? Karza creating the seven and sanctifying the clearing means that the seven being here closes the loop. Like Fiddler coming back closes the loop. And if I were going to take a wild swing based upon what I know about the seven cities, Mappo and Icarium, and how they're tied to Deadhouse Gates, traveling around the Holy Desert, and while there really is only vague facts, I think that they have something to do with this.
That is a lot.
Yes, it is.
I hope we get some answers one way or another on that for you, just so it's not one of those things that we feel that we didn't get an answer on.
Oh, for sure. I mean, but do you see what I mean, though? How, like, the Tano song is almost like their way of sorcery, right? So, Fiddler, as they were approaching Deadhouse Gates, they unlinquished the song, right? To get rid of Rylandris. Am I remembering that right?
But all I remember, maybe not the song that they had, but I thought I remember that the Tano Spirit Walker songs could like ascend a group of people.
Thus, the bridge burners, right?
You think they're all ascended?
I don't think it's a coincidence that Fiddler asked Shadow Throne to come back to Seven Cities. Like, I think that in itself is how the bridge burners like complete the cycle.
Assuming that's a real thing, I suppose. Right. I mean, just to play devil's advocate here a little bit.
No, it's fine. But like, it's because of the bridge burner theory that like makes me think of the seven being elliptical. Like, they're coming back. I think that the seven and the Tano are related in some way, shape, or form.
This is starting to feel like your quick bet, like the seven are related to everybody here.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I feel so much that the seven came from the seven cities. But what did we learn of Seven Cities and Deadhouse Gates, right?
It's old.
I feel like the only thing that connects them is Icarium and Mappo to extent because of Icarium. You know, Icarium destroyed all these cities, right? But like, what if he did it under the influence of a seven? How is that any different than Karza being manipulated to go destroy other cities because of bad blood?
Suppose it's not then in something like that.
I don't know. It just something about how the Tano and the bridge burners are elliptical makes me think that like Karza creating the sanctified space for the seven to escape Genebacchus to come to Seven Cities makes me think that's where they were supposed to be. That's where they came from. And that they were imprisoned on Genebacchus because of their crimes.
Maybe. We talked about that comment about the song causing a group to ascend. I'm pretty sure that was the deal. And then we've got this sentence saying, you know, the Tano sorcery is elliptical, like a serpent eating its tail. And when I first read that, it was an immediate shout out to Damien for me. It had a cycle and snakes in one.
Yep. Makes me think of Wheel of Time, anyone?
Yeah. Aes Sedai and their rings.
Yep.
Hebrick talking about these jade statues or these intruders from another world. You know, and Hebrick says when they arrived only to be chained in Otaterol. How did they know that was going to work? Like, is it just dumb luck? Or is it like Hebrick said, you know, this portal that they came through created the Otaterol and that chained them, I guess. That seems to make a little more sense to me, than thinking it was just a dumb luck or that it's, I don't know that you would call it plot armor or anything like that, but.
I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, it almost seems like coincidental. Is that maybe what, like, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Is that like it's too convenient to be true?
Yeah, you've got these fucking aliens showing up from another world, but as soon as they get there, they're trapped, which is great for the people of that planet because they're not getting murdered by aliens, right? Immediately, anyways.
Yeah, but I mean, how trapped are they if they've escaped?
Or are slowly escaping. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. The circumstances maybe finally arose where they could get out, but
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with your sentiment earlier that it's like we get more information about the Jade statues, but we really don't.
yeah. Next thought here, still talking about the Jade. I guess I wonder if they were Jade before they arrived, or did that happen after they got trapped in the Otadero as well? But Lorik says he had some knowledge of them, but each time they arrived, it was known they were coming. And to me, that is just sounds cyclical again. Like they've come before. They'll come again, perhaps.
Do you think that like knowing that information is like the way of rescuing the crippled god?
I don't know if I'm following you.
So they keep making this association that the Jade Hands are alien, right? Well, we know that the crippled god is alien, right? Like it was called down from
Somewhere else, yeah.
right. So my guess is that these jade things are like a means of rescuing him.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
So
Well, they're not working yet.
they're what?
They're not working yet.
Right. Yeah. So like that's my guess is that it's a way of like bringing the crippled god back. But he doesn't want to because he's pissed off. He was called down in the first place. And it seems like on his dissension, he was broken apart.
Why would they need, I guess my thought then is like, why would they need such a massive fucking thing to rescue the crippled god?
Maybe he's huge.
I think it's possible.
I mean, think about it. How many people do you imagine in your mind were there at the chaining? Rake, Envy, Osric, Kalenved, Dancer,
A number.
Sem,
Yeah.
right? Like you would think that if this was somebody insignificant, it wouldn't take that many people to chain it.
But all that tells me is that the crippled god is powerful, not necessarily that it's large in size.
You don't associate large in size with powerful?
Not necessarily.
Fair enough. I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know.
I don't feel like I've seen any correlation in this particular instance between the two. That maybe I just didn't read it that way too.
Do you associate the jade statues with the crippled god though? Or not so much?
Not so much, but again, that could be the same thing where I just haven't read it that way.
I guess when you think of the color jade, what do you think of?
Green.
And when you think of sick, what do you think of?
Like you're wanting a color.
Yes.
I don't know, like green, brown, yellow.
There you go.
All right.
Just saying.
But the fucking jade statue, again, like we go, some rough calculations, by our horse frog friends say this thing's like 9,000 feet tall. It's like a mile and a half.
I mean, I think the hard part is like we don't really know that much about the crippled god.
Yeah, we don't.
In this world, in everything that it could like have the ability to encompass, the sky's the limit, right? I just feel like it would be one more thing for the crippled god to be able to do, right? Like it doesn't matter who it is, it just happened to be Haboric. Oh, you touched me. Now I'm gonna escape.
Thanks for helping me out.
Right. Oh, I'm fighting Otaterel. Cool. Well, I see that you're diminishing, whereas I'm thriving. Eventually I'll take over. I can be patient, like the 7.
Yeah, which is something a human can't really do.
Right. So it's so interesting. I almost kind of feel like House of Chains surpasses Dead House Gates just a little bit. Just a little bit, because it's kind of the explanation as to what's happening.
Interesting.
I like this book.
Yeah, I wonder if you'll feel that way at the end still. Once we get through everything on it.
I almost don't care.
Yeah, it's not a big hang up.
Because I feel like from what we know, Midnight Tides is going to completely I feel like it goes back to the history of the Edor, like the very beginning of everything, right? The deliverer of Midnight Tides, right? Which I almost kind of feel like is this human guy, Decembrus or whatever his name is. And then Bone Hunters is going to kind of tie in the end of Memories of Ice and House of Chains. I feel like that is kind of where everybody kind of moves forward.
One day we will find out.
Well, I mean, we're halfway there.
Yeah, true. My last thought on this section, Lorik, tells him the story, right? Tells him that the need is dire, even, and he's going to do this even if it reveals more of him than he wishes. And he's talking, and Heberick listens until the fire went cold. But we don't get to hear what Lorik said. What do you think he said? I don't really have any idea, I guess, so I'm curious on your thoughts. If you have any, maybe you don't.
I would assume that it has something to do with the jade statues, because that's the only thing that he can contribute to the conversation.
So why do you think that information was omitted from us then?
Because we're not supposed to know. It's too early in the book to know.
But I want to know.
It's not how that works.
All right, fine. Well, that's all I've got. You can read your next section, and then we can talk about that, and then we'll finish the chapter, and then we can go read another chapter. Or maybe you won't tonight, I don't know. But
I doubt I will.
We got a couple shorties here, so...
Thank God this is a short one. All right. The sun rose, and Karza double-checked his supplies. A kit unlike the one he carried for the majority of his life. Even his sword was different, made from ironwood and was heavier than bloodwood, but it served him well enough. He looked at the sky. Here in the heart of Raraku, the whirlwind goddess had stolen the color of the sun, leaving the landscape to look pale and deathly. Inside Karsa's head, Beyroth said with humor in his ghostly voice that the land was not so colorless, but more silver. And silver meant oblivion of chaos. Silver is when the last of the blood is washed from the blade. Karza interrupts Beyroth and tells him no more words. Leoman said that he had just arrived and hadn't spoken any words. Karza said that it was all good. He was just answering his own thoughts, but out loud. He expressed that he was happy that Leoman was here, as on his first journey, no one had come to witness. Leoman was 10 paces away, walking through the trail gap on the low, crumbled wall. Karza could see on the shadow side of that wall a bunch of risen, their colors blending into the brick wall. Leoman tells Karza that he invited Sha'ik, but she couldn't make it, and oddly enough, seemed aware of Karza's intention to leave. Karza said that this was cool, as one to witness was good enough. Karza tells Leoman to obey Sha'ik's orders, and to many small jabs of the knife can awaken the bear no matter how deep it sleeps. Leoman said that it was young and weak, and it was a young and weak bear this time. Karza added that he has learned to respect the Malazans and expresses that he fears that Leomin would awaken the Malazans to themselves. Leomin said that he shall consider Karza's words, but in return asks for Karza to consider Leomin's words. Beware your gods. If Karza must kneel to power, make sure to look at it with clear eyes. He asked what his tribe would say when Leomin or when someone departs the village. Karza responded with, "May you slay 1,000 children." Leomin went white in the face and said to journey well instead. Karza knew that Leomin couldn't sense that he was flanked by Delim and Baroth, smeared in blood oil that even the whirlwind could not eradicate. As Karza turned around, his ghost Templar warriors stepped forward, saying, "Lead us, war leader." He thought to himself that it was better to lead ghosts than to be chased by them. One of them inside his head said, "If that is how you wish to see it, Karza Orlong." Up ahead, the whirlwind swirling wall of sand could be seen. Karza thought to himself that it would be good enough to see outside of the whirlwind again.
I struggled with this section and just Karza seeing, the ghosts of Baroth and Delim, and it's just, I'm unsure. Obviously, Leomin can't see them, right? But Karza does. So does that make them real or not? I don't know. Or are they just like a figment of his imagination?
I think that while they're like 100% a figment of Karza's imagination, I think that they're real. Because it can't be any different than like the Rivi spirits, right? In Memories of Ice. Can't be any different than that concept.
I suppose.
Whether it's real or not, this is what Karza needs.
Maybe it just feels different to me because there's only the two of them and we got to know them as characters a little bit.
Yeah. Like I don't know if you feel the same way, but chapters 1 and 2 don't really seem to be pointed to Karza themselves. But it really seems to be an emphasis on Baroth and Delim. Like, if it wouldn't have been that, would we really have this connection with these characters?
Probably not. You wouldn't care so much.
No. It's almost like Karza is the focal point of chapters 1 and 2, but the relevance of those chapters are Delim and Baroth. Like, those are the points that hit home.
I think that's a really good point. Again, I didn't think of it that way, but it makes a lot of sense.
I try not to suck.
Looks like you got a couple thoughts here.
So, this comment where they're talking about the whirlwind goddess has stolen the color of sun. And I think that what this is trying to say is that the whirlwind has stolen color. And all that's left is chaos.
So your comment reads, I think what this is trying to say is that the whirlwind has stolen color and that all that's left was chaos, but it also represents an end. When would you wash your blade? When the task is over and the threat is dealt with. I don't know if hearing it makes anything jog in your memory. No?
Nope, I'm too far gone.
Well, I don't know if this will be perfect, but like what I think, it says silver is when the last of the blood is washed from the blade. So the sword is clean again.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. It's kind of like, when the deed is done, the sword is washed clean and therefore it has the color silver. Right? But according to this, silver is equal to chaos.
Clean swords ready to make more chaos?
It's very possible.
Just trying to help out.
I appreciate it.
This one, I'm not sure where you're going with this, but you say more color theory here. The Risen had their wings tucked in and blended to the colors of the shadow side of the wall. Why would the Steven Erickson go out of his way to point this out? I can't think of anything that this would mean. And that's where Karsa could see on the shadow side a bunch of risen and their colors blending into the brick wall. Maybe just a descriptor, I suppose. Maybe it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, but I feel like there's intent behind. Like Leoman is walking through this gap that's in the wall, and on the wall is a bunch of risen, which are predators, right? But because they're not like flapping or buzzing their wings, they look as if they are one with the wall. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what I was thinking here.
I don't really have anything I can contribute to that comment. Any ideas? Well, should we wrap this chapter up here?
Let's do it, dude.
All right. Section 6. Justin is miraculously sober now.
How did that happen?
That was a really fun time, I will say. I enjoyed seeing you like that because I don't know that it's been a long time since I've seen you.
College, right? When you'd come up and hang out with us at the house.
By the Metrodome, when that was still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
The House of Metal.
All right. Camus Rouleau said he had left. Corbolo Dom eyed the mage, while the look on his face showed none of the contempt he held for the man. Sorcerers didn't belong in war, and Dom had showed this when he destroyed the chain of dogs. Dom said that left only Leoman. Rouleau said he would depart with his rats in a few days. Dom asked if Febrile would move his plans up in that case. Rouleau shrugged and said it was hard to say. Dom said Heberick now had become their biggest problem. Rouleau sneered, saying he was a fool and he wouldn't be a problem much longer. The Henbara tea he drinks is responsible for the thinning fabric between his world and what he flees from. Soon his mind will be gone, and he will not be an issue. Dom said she, Sha'ik, has secrets beyond what the whirlwind has gifted her. Febrile dives headfirst, unaware of his own ignorance. When the fight starts with the adjunct, the war will be decided by the dog slayers. He is sure Tavor's Otadril will defeat the whirlwind. He only asks to be left by Febrile and Bidithal in commanding the forces in the shaping of the battle. Rouleau growled, saying they were both aware that this struggle extended far beyond the whirlwind. Dom didn't need reminding and said to remember it goes beyond 7 cities and not to lose sight of the throne they would soon have. Rouleau said this was their secret. They would need to be careful going forward, and that what opposes them will likely disappear. Febrile will kill Sha'ik, Tavor kills Febrile, then they destroy Tavor and her army. Thus, they become Lacine's savior as they crush the rebellion. A triumphant return to Unta, and then they take out the Empress. There's no one to stop them. The Talons are going to take out the Claws, Whiskey Jack and the Bridgeburners are done for, and Dujek is a continent away. How was the Gistal priest? Malik Rel is traveling south without opposition and will play his role perfectly. Dom made no reply. He hated Rel, but that didn't mean he couldn't be useful. That didn't mean he needed to trust him either. Dom told Rouleau to send him Fael and then leave him. He wanted the company of a woman. Rouleau hesitated, saying there was the issue of Lorik. Dom snapped and told him to deal with it and leave. He bowed his head and left. If he could find a way to destroy magic, he would not hesitate. The eradication of a power that could kill thousands of soldiers in an instant would return power back to the mortals. The death of warrens and gods fading into memory meant the world would belong to men like Corbolo Dom. He would bring order, and from that order, unity. They would rid the world of every other people. They would ride the people of the world. That got sexy fast. All right. There would be only one way of living and ruling this realm, and it would belong to Dom. A good soldier knew that success was attributed to good and careful planning, and the opposition had a way of getting out of its own way. He thought Whiskey Jack was now where he had always wanted him, right at Hood's feet. There was no one left to stop him now. Last section to wrap up here. So, yeah, this is where Corbolo Dam is thinking that they're going to take out the Empress. I kind of thought that they were talking about like a different throne at first, or, like one in the Warrens or something. And then I thought that, like, okay, well, maybe they're double agents or something, playing both the sides. But then, obviously, this clears it up. They just want to take out Lacine and kind of build their own empire, I guess, is what I take out of this. I don't know what you were thinking.
Well, remember that Corbolo Dam is in the pan, right?
Yeah.
So do you remember in chapter 5 when we got the Admiral Nock story about the Brotherhood and family, that Lacine was part of the Nepan royal line?
Okay. Yeah, yes, I'm remembering that now a little bit.
I'm gonna go out on a wing here and say that Corbolo Dam is also part of the royal family, and he wants the throne back.
So you think he must be, I guess this would be going out on a limb as well. Most successions, it follows from the oldest down to the youngest, so he must be younger than Lacine.
Very well. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not, but...
Or the oldest, or the rightful heir, or, the entitled...
Yeah, I guess he could be a cousin or something. Yeah, maybe not directly related, so maybe he's a few people down the line and wants to cut out the middle to get there, I guess.
Yeah, which is why he got so excited about Whiskey Jack's death, right? It's because everybody thought that Whiskey Jack should have taken over for Kellenved, but he just denied that opportunity. So now it's like one less competition,
Sure. Yeah, I was like, when I first read that, though, I was just thinking like, oh, they're gonna like go after like the one I think I first thought of was the Beast Throne, and that's maybe the only one in the Warrens that I can remember right now.
Sure.
But then, as I kept reading, like, oh, okay, kind of clears things up. My next thought here, again, Corbolo Dam he's thinking, or he's talking about, wanting to destroy magic because it's just this power. I mean, you can wipe out an army snap of a finger, right? Thousands of people just gone.
Does it remind you of anything?
I guess I'm not sure where you're going.
It was a theme that was quite prevalent in Memories of Ice. Rake and Brood had a few conversations around what would happen if sorcery just ceased to exist. And that's kind of the threat that the crippled god played on his assailing of the Warrens, right?
I guess I don't really remember that.
They took away the ability to use magic.
But from the mortal side of things, if you're just a common foot soldier, it doesn't sound like a terrible thing though to get rid of magic, because you have a little bit more control, maybe loosely, over your own fate in a fight. I mean, you don't have to worry about erupting into a fireball or something. Maybe you get stabbed or whatever, but you got armor. Hopefully that saves you, or you get your shield up in time, that type of deal. But there's always pros and cons.
Your thought reminded me of some of the themes that we've explored.
Gotcha. That's why it's fun to bounce the stuff off of you, because obviously, I didn't remember that. And then, in the same paragraph, I'm thinking, okay, well, this doesn't sound terrible. We get, you don't have people getting murdered by magic everywhere, in war. But then you end up with, I guess, a dictator, more or less, of Corbolo Dam, and that doesn't sound so good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the other side of the coin there, as one way to put it, I suppose.
Yeah, he's revealing what he wants.
He wants control. He wants the power. I don't know if he wants to watch the world burn yet, or if he just wants to rule it, but he wants the power. Those were my few thoughts on the section there. I guess it is a little interesting here. I feel like we get some insight as to Febral's plan, if this information is correct. But Febral attempting to kill Sha'ik. I say attempt because we haven't seen it yet, and who knows if it'll happen.
Right.
They have a plan, and I guess going back to our conversation with Jim, they have the plan. Will they have the discipline? Will they have the skill to execute that and pull it off? I don't know.
Right. But it's almost funny because, the whirlwind, or the apocalypse or the rebellion or whatever is fighting with itself, whereas the Tavor's army,
They might be getting a little antsy, like ready to fight, but yeah, they're not.
they're not trying to like self-destruct or self-sabotage.
Right.
So, I mean, that right there is an advantage. I guess one of the thoughts that's coming to my mind is this comment about the Henbara tea and Haboric.
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah, I didn't jot anything down about that, but yeah, I wondered about that. Is Hebert kind of going insane here or something?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe it was one of those things where, off page, somebody had suggested, i.e., Corpolo Dom or Rouleau or Febril or one of these high mages suggested Leoman that Haboric drink some Henbara tea to like relax. You know what I mean? And really, it was just a way for him to drop his guard or, give him endless nightmares or, what have you.
Yeah, but it is interesting that it sounds like with how that was worded that like his reality is going to be blurred, which is interesting because he already can't see well anyways. So I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's intent, like something they did something. Maybe they like dusted the Henbara flowers with some type of like, dream agent, or I don't know.
Or there's some side effect that he doesn't know about that he wasn't told about, and it's yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the this last section leaves us off with quite a bit of mystery. It definitely feels like there's some rising tension.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that resolves or like explodes with itself.
I mean, it's kind of scary, right? Because literally, and here it comes the Damien stuff. Literally, everybody that was keeping the snakes in the grass at bay are now leaving. Think about it. Cars is gone. Leoman's gonna go scout. Fellows and Younger is probably going to accompany Haboric on his travels back to the Ototero Island. So who really does she have as an ally anymore? She's literally opening herself up to be bit.
See what happens. I've had a hard time like just even trying to form an idea what we're gonna read next. As we've not like just with this specific chapter, just like even previous ones as we've gone. This book definitely feels different than the previous three.
It does. It seems like there's a lot of like anticipation.
Yeah, it's just that it's kind of like that powder keg that's building and building and getting ready to blow. And I think it's got to go pretty quick.
Or do you think that it'll follow a similar format to Memories of Ice, where, kind of near the middle, we got a siege, right? And then at the end, we got a big battle.
I don't know. I don't think he's going to do the same thing twice. At least not 2 books in a row. I think it'll be different, but I don't know how.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
maybe I'm wrong too. Maybe we'll get, similar beats.
I don't know. It's kind of like I said, I don't know if it was earlier in this episode, but like the battle between the Malazans and the Whirlwind is a thing that will probably happen. Like I said, it's almost like background noise compared to the rest of the events of this book. I think more of the focus is like Karza's story and Haboric's story and the Jade statue and all the mysteries of like the Whirlwind and Shadow Realm and the throne and Hutter and what the fuck happened to Apsalar, like.
Oh man, I forgot about that. Yeah, we still don't have an answer for that yet.
No,
Damn. Well, we're gonna have to read on and find out.
we may have not read the next chapter.
Yeah, but I mean, I still don't. I guess yeah, cat's out of the bag, right?
Yeah.
This episode was a unique one for us, but you're going to see several states of Justin throughout this, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, we have we have read the last chapter because we just had this last section to record tonight. But we read the next chapter and not really any answers given to us.
Nope, because it's following my format, which is Tavor. And then we get Kalam, then Apsalar, Whirlwind. So chapter 8 was the Omen, Tavor. Chapter 9 was Kalam and Cutter and Onrak and Trolsengar. And then we've got chapter 10.
Well, I guess we'll see what we get with this new subbook then, if it sticks to it or if it changes. I haven't looked at that yet, so
Mm-mm. I don't even know how long the chapter or the first chapter of the subbook is. Something breathes or whatever.
I think that's a cool name. It just sounds ominous.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's probably something that like we haven't met before.
Yeah.
Like something breathes, like what else would that be?
It is something that breathes.
I guess we are all some things that breathe.
True. For now.
Yeah. Well, that was a riveting 24 minutes.
Yeah, it feels weird. But that's okay.
Yeah. It's only our third attempt at finishing this episode.
Hey, but we did it.
Yes, we did do it.
But I guess I look at it this way. Well, I mean, no, the first time was my fault because I was just so fucking tired.
Well, second time was my fault.
Well, I wouldn't even say that. I mean,
Took us less time on a Tuesday night to finish recording, right?
true.
But it was still definitely my fault because we ran out of storage.
Well, I mean, it was a last minute thing thrown together to do that on a fucking Saturday night at 9:00. So here we are, Tuesday. Whatever.
Yeah. Fair enough.
You'll stitch it together, and the only reason people know is because we're talking about it.
Right.
They may be like, well, Justin's kind of weird there in the middle, and then he leveled out again.
I don't know if like audio wise you would really be able to tell, because like I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna edit it, right? So all those like weird pauses in between things, those like slow moments from myself, those will all get edited out. So
I don't think you were really like slurring your words or anything, but like,
I was trying real hard. I was trying hard.
well, I could see the effort, but it made it fun.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to have a drunk with D&J episode.
Oh man, I don't know that I want to get drunk. We'll see. I definitely would be fine, if I'm buzzed. All I need is just like give me like a couple 10% beers and I'll be good.
Well, see, my problem is that I drank beer before I drank hard liquor, and when you do that,
you didn't tell me that.
Sicker. Yep. You've never been sicker.
But you were fine.
Well, I mean, you didn't see anything afterwards, but yeah.
Oh, or you were fine because you were puking your guts up later that night?
Yeah. I honestly don't mind puking. Like, give it to me.
Ugh.
One of my favorite parts, because it's like, hey, feel better. Give me another beer,
Oh, no, I can't do that. I'm just not built for that.
Fair enough.
Well, guys, it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I think I'm probably going to go to bed. I'm not going to be reading tonight, so.
Well, good night, Derek.
See you, Justin.
Bye.
DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest.
Congratulations!
Congrats! You did it! You made it
If-
to the end of the show!
If you've made it here past the outro music, uh, shoot us an email. D&J, that's D and J, epicquest@gmail.com. We will have a prize for the first person who emails us, or get a hold of us on Twitter, whatever. Send us a message somewhere. Get a hold of one of us somehow, and we'll get back in touch with you and have something for you.
Take a picture of you getting to the end of this episode and send it to us in your email.
Okay, sure. Yeah, cool.
We're merely curious to see how many actually and how long, how many and how long it takes. So obviously, this is a first come, first serve. If that takes 4 years, takes 4 days. First one here wins the prize.
Yeah, maybe once it's claimed, maybe you'll have to come back and remove it. I don't know, but
Maybe.
we'll see. We'll figure it out. That's just stuff for us to talk about. But just something fun we're doing just to see what's there. So thanks for another couple minutes of rambling here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye.